This is Boxing Scene's top stories only on ProBox TV, your boxing channel. I am George D. Metellus. Quick reminder of the long-form content of ProBox TV. You can get it on the app where apps are available, and you can hear top stories audio form where podcasts are available. I am joined by the champions. We got Chris Algieri, and we got ESPN analyst Tim Bradley joining us here on Top Stories. Well, SERGIY Derevyanchenko once again put up a brave fight, but in a losing effort to Christian MBILLI this past Saturday in Quebec. Now, questions are being asked as to why Derevyanchenko had to continue on after suffering a fourth-round bicep injury that essentially made him a one-armed fighter. All right, ESPN analyst Tim Bradley, should Derevyanchenko's corner stop the fight?
I think y'all heard the broadcast. I mean, I was begging for the corner. I mean, I was standing up, in between rounds, standing up during the fight, trying to look over to the corner and say, hey, somebody need to step in and save this guy. Look, Derevyanchenko, we know he's tough. I mean, he's never been stopped before. He's been match tough his entire career. He's fought the very best in each weight class that he's ever faced or been in. He's coming off a fight of the year with Munguia. This is a guy that's handicapped, doing one of the important fights of his career. Basically, he was in there fighting for his life. He wasn't winning rounds. He maybe won one, maybe two on another judge's scorecard, and he was taking punishment. And yes, he was competing. That's his nature. He was competing. I get that, and I understand that you fans at home, you love it. You've never seen anything like it. The bravery that he showed, the ability of him, continuing to fight and find ways to land shots on MBILLI. But, at the same time, the amount of damage that he took over the course of the fight, he will never be the same. When we spoke to him in the fighter meeting, he said, I want to fight 2 more years. That's what he told us. I got about 2 more years. I want to fight, opportunity to fight for a world championship again. Well, if you know that, you being the trainer, you should have stepped in and saved him to fight another day. That's it. Now, those 2 years, probably now is more so 1 year now left in the business because he took a lot of damage from MBILLI that he shouldn't have, and he didn't have to. And if the trainers, if they loved him, they should have stopped that fight.
Tim, I'm actually going to disagree. I was watching the fight. I got asked on air by Christina Poncho, I called the fight with for the International on Top Rank. And she asked, Chris, do you think that fight should have been stopped? And I said, actually, no, because I believe he was doing enough to get the nod to be able to keep going. Wasn't winning the rounds. I agree 100%. I know the trainers. I know everyone in that corner. I know the management. I know the corners. I know the strength coaches, the cutman. I know SERGIY himself. Man, that guy's got no quit in him. And I understand looking out for him, but that's how that gym is. That's how those coaches are. And they understand what they have in front of them. SERGIY didn't want to stop that fight. He was fighting hard enough. And yes, one-armed, absolutely, from the 4th round on. But honestly, he was doing better with one arm certain rounds. He really came out there double, tripling up, quadrupling up the right hand. And every time it looked like it was like, all right, this is the time we should stop it. He goes back to the corner. Dre's talking to him. He goes, can you give it? Can you do it? Can you do the work? I'll give you one more round. Then he goes out there and actually looks good that round. Doesn't win the round, but goes out there. I just think he did enough to extend himself. There was no time during when I'm watching where I'm like, man, he's just getting beat from pillar to post. There was moments, absolutely there was moments, but he would fight back just enough to stay in the fight. And for him, and I think with the way that his mind works and the way that he trains, he's like, I got to get through this. It's important for me to finish on my feet. And in terms of the 2 years, I mean, with a loss to MBILLI, even with the injury, and that injury he's gonna be out for at least a year. I don't know if that's realistic. That might have been his last stand. That might be the last time we ever see him fight again. And I think for him, fighting while finishing that fight on his feet might be whatever he was looking for in order for his career to be finally complete.
Well, let me add something. I had a brief conversation with Andre Rozier, his trainer, in the airport. Of course, you, the nephew, how you doing? How you doing? I was like, I know you heard about the broadcast. I was pleading. You saw me standing up the whole bit. I said, you should stop that fight. And he was like, I think back at it, yeah, but you want to know something? He said, Derevyanchenko told me, thank you for not stopping the fight.
Yeah.
And I said, I get it. I said, I have the same nature, man. I get it. But I said, he's 38 years old. There's a lot of miles on his odometer, man. I said, 300 amateur fights, man, 300 plus amateur fights. I was like, he has a family, he has kids, you know. I was like, dude, like, you got to take care of him. And he said, Tim, look.
Yeah, Tim.
If I would have stopped that fight, hold up. He said, if I would have stopped that fight, he said, I would have destroyed his spirit. And I said, wait, what? He said, I didn't want to destroy his spirit. He told me that he didn't want me to stop the fight. Warriors, right? We operate on spirits. I do. You know, if he was to stop that fight, he would no longer have that invincibility. Like, no one can stop me. It doesn't matter if I'm hurt, injured, one-armed or whatever. Like, I got through this. I was able to get through this experience. And that is enough to propel him mentally to continue on in the sport. But if I would have took that from him, Tim, he said, his career would probably be over. He was like, but the fact that I didn't, he said, he's going to be able to fight again someday. So I said, you know what? I respect it. But at the same time, I'm going to tell you right now, I would have stopped the match. And you should have stopped the match.
Tim, and that goes to what I was saying about Dre. Dre knows his guys so well. I know them both from the out. I worked with Dre for a very long time. I've been in camps with Sergey. And just knowing, I know how Sergey is, I know how Dre is, and I know how much Dre takes. That's why he calls us all his nephews. We're nephews. We're family to him. And he knows his guy so well. And I'm glad you shared that story, because that speaks exactly to what that means. That, you know, Dre knows his fighters, knows what they want, knows what they are. Sergey's a warrior. That's never going down anything. You know, listen, what's everybody talking about right now? Nobody's talking about MBILLI's performance. They're talking about how tough Sergey Derevyanchenko is and whether or not the fight should be stopped. So, I mean, Sergey ultimately stole the show by finishing on his feet. Is it good for his future? Absolutely not. But, you know, the guy gets to fight another day. And like Dre put it, the way, kept his spirit, kept that fighting spirit, which, as you know, is super important.
Yes.
And hopefully nothing will be permanent in terms of damage with the long-term health of Sergey Derevyanchenko, but he has shown that he is a tremendous warrior. That is for sure. Well, we'd like to remind you that you can scan the QR code, take you to proboxtv.com, and also best live fight series in all of boxing coming up on Wednesday, August 21st. 2 former world champions as the main event on ProBox TV. It's going to be a good one with Wednesday night fights. I'm George DeMatteis. Thank you for watching Boxing Scene's Top Stories.
Wednesday night fights. Coming up on your next Wednesday night fights, August 21st. Jarrett Hurd battles Jason Rosario.
For more ProBox TV, scan the QR code on the screen or go to the App Store and Google Play. ProBox TV, your boxing channel.